We're live. We're back on our usual Wednesday 8:30 a.m. time slot here on LinkedIn Live and also YouTube as well. So if you're joining us from YouTube, welcome. This is our first live broadcast on YouTube. Usually it's just LinkedIn Live, but now we're set to stream on both platforms at the same time. I'm Sam Kaplan, the founding owner of Brand Ambassador Consultants, joined by Jason Smith with a new title. He is the founder of Velocity Goats. Jason, tell us about that.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, honestly, it's a venture I've thought of for a really long time, and I haven't 100% sold myself on, hey, this is going to work at a really effective level yet, and that's the way I have to have it. But I'm driven on making a one-stop shop for a small emerging brand who really needs to build velocities and doesn't really have a clue on how to do it. Doing it the right way. I want to be effective. I don't want to work with multiple brands. I want to work with one brand per category and limit it to about 3 to 4 brands to start, and really just drive their velocities to the moon and show, that this is no accident. There is a strategy to demos. You can do it at a very effective high level. You can succeed at anything. So.
And Jason, you've built multiple brands, through the years. And if anyone's interested in getting in touch with you, we've got our contact information at that ticker at the bottom. Jason, I would assume LinkedIn is probably the best way to get in touch with you for the time being.
Yeah, for the time being, like I said, it's imperative for me to leave Ithaca in the best situation possible. So I'm still in my last 2 weeks, and I never want to, I'm busy, for 8 to 10 hours just with that. But I've had a little time to at least get the LLC started. I haven't even got a website up. I need to create an email. There's still so much to do if I make this happen. But I've had a lot of amazing founders and brands reaching out to me like, hey, can you help us? And I don't think I can help everyone, but I know I can help the right brands. So.
And we've got a big fun show for everybody today. We're going to do our CPG week in review, and we're going to talk about that little UNFI cyber attack. That's, that you may have heard some news about that if you're in our industry. Then for our main event, this is going to be a fun one. Jason and I will each present our Mount Rushmores of the best field marketing campaigns / programs of all time. So we're each going to go 4. I've done some pretty fun research the last couple of days. Looking forward to giving my picks and hearing Jason's picks. And then we'll close it out with New and Natural. We are going to review Honey Mama's new protein bar. So I'm very excited. Jason's tried it. I've not tried the new protein bar, so looking forward to that here in a little bit. But let's transition now to our CPG week in review. And I think that, with our special that we did last week, our special masterclass, we were not on during our regular time slot, and we were not going to talk about topical current events because we wanted that presentation last week to be evergreen as possible. So we wanted to come off as timeless and not dated. So we didn't talk about things that were going on in the news. But we are talking now about the UNFI cyber attack that has affected just about every brand in our industry, one way or the other, whether you're a product or a service. The impact has been earth-shattering. And Jason, I first got attuned to Gregory Esslinger through a shared post that you did on your LinkedIn. And Gregory, you look at his LinkedIn profile, he promotes himself as a UNFI expert. And expert is a term that gets thrown around loosely these days. But I looked at Gregory's feed and all the posts he has on this UNFI situation. And he truly is an expert on UNFI. I mean, this has been the best. His LinkedIn feed has been the best source for me in terms of information with regards to what's going on with this UNFI outage. So highly recommend that you connect with Gregory on LinkedIn if you're looking for the latest info. But according to Gregory's latest update, it looks like things are kind of moving forward a little bit, but there's still a long ways to go before we get back to normal. Jason, just talk to me a little bit about how this UNFI outage due to the cyber attack has impacted your world.
I mean, it's been a massive impact. I mean, if you're not getting product in the stores, not only are your velocities starting to tank because, you're not getting any sell through, probably a lot of the customers aren't returning to Whole Foods right now to shop because they don't know what they're going to get. And, let's talk about this on a broader spectrum here. This isn't just a Whole Foods thing. This is a Kroger thing. This is a Wegmans thing. This is a lot of retailers, Giant, Ahold, like a lot of retailers pull from UNFI and rely on them for a product. And, this is going to be a massive impact on everyone. Obviously, the demos haven't been happening. And that's really taken a big, it's hurting our team, and it's unfortunate. And I didn't get any unfortunate news yesterday. Teresa Mendoza of Interactions canceled all our demos through the 25th, just saying, hey,
Wow.
we're not doing them until we're sure this is we're getting on the up and up. But speaking to grocery team leaders in stores every day, and a lot of them are telling me, hey, we can order maybe 1 to 2 cases at the most, and unless you're a top 100 item in the store, it's really hard to get your product consistently. And this is something that I think every brand, honestly, these things happen for a reason. This is a time for any brand who relies just on one distributor for retail to kind of take a look in the mirror and say to yourself, all right, well, if I had a DSD player in Works or a backup, I could be taking a huge advantage of this situation. But instead, I relied on one distributor, and honestly, it's limiting. And I know a lot of retailers want you to use one distributor, but there's a lot of local DSD players out there that can do a lot for you. I'll tell you one that I love to work with in the Northeast. Been a big fan of them for years and years. It's Rainforest. I love Amari. I love Jimmy. They're awesome guys. Seriously, hope they're getting a lot of business from this because they deserve it. And those DSD players right now, this is the time, guys. Start reaching out to brands because they need you.
And Jason, correct me if I'm wrong. I know Rainforest does a lot of deliveries here in the Northeast for Whole Foods, but from a national perspective, I mean, Whole Foods pretty much has tethered itself rather to UNFI from a national perspective. And, I know when COVID happened, it forced a lot of businesses to rethink how they do things. And this is a catastrophe in its own right in certain ways. I mean, you can't get food on the shelves. That's a huge problem. Is this as bad as COVID? Absolutely not. But anytime the food supply chain is impacted to this extent, I call it a catastrophe. And Whole Foods, they've invested a lot of time and a lot of money, and they made a major commitment to back UNFI. And this is just speculation on my part. It's not based on any inside information. I haven't spoken to anyone, but I wonder if this is going to cause Whole Foods to rethink about the level of dependency it has on UNFI, and might they consider opening things up to other distributors? I mean, if this keeps going on the way it's going on, I don't think they're going to have a choice if they want to stay in business. This is going to really affect, not only the brands and not only the services like myself and yourself, Jason, but the retailers. I mean, it's affecting their bottom line as much as anyone. And I just think that maybe they need to reconsider that, because this is just I think that even if it were to get back up to full strength next week, which I don't think is going to happen, even once it gets back to normal, there is going to be a backlog. And there are times where I go into stores now and the staff is short-staffed and they're having trouble on a regular day keeping the shelves stocked. And now there's going to be this backlog of product that it's all suddenly going to come in at some point, whether it's a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now. And a lot of that product's going to sit in the back because there's only so much manpower within a grocery retailer unless they bring in the reset teams, or they bring in specialists to come in and augment their existing in-store teams. But these in-store teams, my heart goes out to them, because when the food supply chain gets going again, they are going to have a lot of work ahead of them. They're already working pretty hard as it is, and they're already short-staffed. So it's going to be quite a challenge for brands, retailers, all of us going forward here. And I just hope that UNFI communicates clearly with their partners. I've talked to some of our brands that we work with. They're very frustrated by the lack of communication they're getting, which is one of my biggest pet peeves in life. It's like when you go on an airplane. I get it. There's going to be mechanical issues, and we shouldn't fly if there's a mechanical issue, but just get on the mic, get on the microphone and let us know what's going on, rather than keeping us sitting there for 45 minutes wondering what is going on. And that's the easiest thing to do, is communicate to your partners. And I from what I've heard, that's not going on right now. And I would love to see that. And, I'm not a cybersecurity expert by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't know what UNFI has, what steps they've undertaken in terms of, their cybersecurity, but it didn't work. That much we do know. That much I can tell you. Jason, any final thoughts there before we go into our main event?
I want to do another shout out to Gregory, who you mentioned. Honestly, I've managed the UNFI relationship for brands and the KE relationship. The guy is just really solid information on LinkedIn. Really highly recommend you check out his posts. He is by far the most informative so far on this event that's happening, and it's been insightful. So thank you, Gregory.
Now we're going to transition to a fun topic, talking about UNFI outage and lost business. Not too much fun, but I think, Jason, you and I are going to have a lot of fun with this. We're going to present our Mount Rushmores of the greatest CPG marketing campaigns and programs of all time. And Jason, I'm going to let you kick it off, and we'll just alternate. We'll go from there. I'm going to count mine down from fourth to first, but I'll turn it over to you to get us started here.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real order to my four, but I'm going to start at the top with one of my favorite emerging brands that's come out, mostly because I'm a metalhead. But,
I didn't know that about you. And I have a lot in common, but I didn't know that yet about you. I am a metalhead as well. Sorry to interrupt there, but that got me excited. So
yeah, my last concert was Anthrax. I'll admit it. Like, I've followed them around for 40 years of my life. I love them, but it's a Liquid Death. Murder Your Thirst. What an awesome marketing. Like, first of all, really, really, death to plastic cans. I love that. It's environmentally free. Everything about Liquid Death, if you want to hate the brand for what it's putting out there, they're doing the right thing. So you really can't hate them for it. And their marketing to me is genius. I love seeing everything they put out. Their teams are incredible what they do with it. I have some swag that I purchased because I just love it that much. Shout out to Annalise Ventura, the brand, who's a really good friend of mine. But 1.4 billion valuation last year. Secured with their Series D of $67 million. And that was in March of 2024. I don't know if they're going to be acquired anytime soon. I hope they don't sell. Honestly, I think what they have is such a special thing. I hope they hit billions of dollars in revenue and just continue to crush it. But and I hope they're the only can on shelf of water in the future, because we need to get rid of plastic. Let's face it. I love the brands that are in plastic that are better for you and alkaline and everything, but I will drink Liquid Death over that in a heartbeat because it's in a can.
Yeah, and you can leave it in your car. I can't leave plastic bottle in my car, especially in the summer.
Yeah.
Great pick there. And the thing I love about Liquid Death is they're bringing fun to the category. And I would be remiss if I didn't explain our criteria. And it's a simple criteria. It has to, these marketing campaigns, it has to be field marketing, and it has to have some kind of brand ambassador component. That's very important, because if you look at some of the best marketing campaigns, you could throw out an Oatly, just genius marketing. But Oatly really didn't rely on demos. They didn't get to where they are through demos. It was just genius marketing. So not really a field marketing campaign. But my first one, Jason's going with better for you brands, and I may have one better for you brand on my list, but this next one, definitely not a better for you brand. And that's Johnny Walker. And I'm going to refer to their House of Johnny campaign back in the mid 2000s. Just legendary. And what the House of Johnny was, basically they had brand ambassadors go out into cities and scout potential people to attend a experiential event. It was, and I was very lucky. I was working as a bouncer at the Trocadero. It's a former concert venue in Philadelphia. This was in my early to mid 20s. I would do it at night to make some additional income. And someone from Johnny Walker came in, a brand ambassador, told me about this big event they were doing at some fancy hotel on the waterfront. And really what it was a tasting. And it was a whole presentation, the House of Johnny. You went in, there's a pretty large group. You sat down, and they gave you a whole presentation about Johnny Walker. And you got to try all of their different whiskeys, and they would pair it with food, and they taught you about the whiskey. And it was genius. And the reason why I mention it, because first off, the brand ambassadors that they had working these events, leading these presentations, they were very charismatic, and they did a great job of educating everyone in that room about the product. And really what the House of Johnny is, to me, it's a case study on how aging brands can connect with a new generation of consumers. And at that point, Johnny Walker in the mid 2000s was known as an old man brand, and they were not connecting with a younger audience. And the House of Johnny definitely changed that, not only in the US, but even globally. To the point where, I do like the occasional, Diet Coke and whiskey. And that was what I always went with, Jack and Diet. And I have not gone back to Jack Daniels since then. Anytime I get a cola and get a whiskey, it's always Johnny and Diet. That's it. And in the rare occasion I go somewhere and they don't have Johnny Walker, I will not drink whiskey. And that's how impactful that House of Johnny, that just incredible experiential campaign was and the impact that it made. And I would say if anybody out there is an aging brand watching this in CPG, you should take a look, really study that House of Johnny campaign. It wasn't cheap, obviously, very expensive, but it's a great example of how you can reinvent your brand and connect with a younger audience if your consumer base is aging out.
That's a great one, Sam. Good call out on that, and great call out on the field marketing piece. So, this one is a little bit more, I was a little bit more involved with this one myself, but I have to call it out because, it was a decade of my life and one of the best experiences I've ever had. But I got to work with a family business that, when they started, they didn't have distribution. I was their distributor. I was their broker. I wasn't an employee at the time, but I knew they had something special, and I loved the people too much to ignore it. So at this time, I owned my own brokerage in Denver, Colorado. I was working with some great brands, InterEco, Nana's Cookies, which I think is even around anymore, Betty Lou's Nut Butter Balls. There's a lot of great brands, right? Some supplement companies. I found Perfect Bar, which was Perfect Foods Bar at that time, and I fell in love with the owners in 2008 when I first met him. At least Bill and his wife Amanda. Got to know the family and just decided to dissolve my business and start what I think is one of the most effective field marketing campaigns. Not because I knew how to build the business, but I realized really quick, like if I was their distributor, I was making 20% on distribution, and that was it. So if I didn't distribute the product that day, I wasn't making any money. And so I learned really quick how to sell them. And I learned really quick that was the key. Like velocities were everything. Like every door that I opened, if I didn't get the velocities to the point, we're talking about a brand new category in grocery. I'm not talking about putting something next to something that fits in a planogram, right? You're like trying to sell into little mom and pops, like, all over Colorado. It was
that new category that you guys created was the refrigerated bar category, because before Perfect Bar, when I went into the store, you did not see any type of bar in the refrigerated section. It was unheard of. So you guys not only exploited white space, but you created the white space.
We had no choice. And not to mention, like, there's multiple coolers in big retail. Like, where do you put Perfect Bar at? There's no other like item like it. So fortunately, we figured out how to win. We created so much data through velocities that we could start dictating where retailers started bringing us in. Say, hey, you know what, if we're going to pay slotting, we need to go here. Instead of just being like, oh yeah, just put us wherever you want. And it was a lot of hard learning, but I can tell you this, when we tried to pull back on the demos, the brand started to fall off the shelf. And it was one of those things. Obviously there was some innovation with the dark chocolate sea salt bar that really put Perfect Bar's name on the market. And honestly, I don't know if it would ever got there without that flavor. But it was really on track anyway with the demos, because we had such a solid demo program going. And then we had this Costco Roadshow program going all the time, which kind of cannibalized retail sometimes. So we had to have the retail demos going on at the same time, so it didn't cannibalize the business from Costco. And we learned a lot of hard things, but hey, sold them in Mondelez. I don't want to tell how much the amount, you can look it up, but please check in. There was a Guy Raz did How I Built This recently with Bill and Lee, the two founders and co-founders of Perfect Bar. I'd love for you guys to listen to it. It was one of the first days in June. I think it was June 2nd or June 3rd. So it's a very updated episode. Please check it out. It's a really cool story. It'll really show you like how hard they had to work, how hard we all had to work, and the passion behind the brand. So.
And for the record, if Jason hadn't put Perfect Bar in his Mount Rushmore, it would have been on mine. So just want to make sure everybody is aware of that. And then for me, I'm going to go to my third from the bottom here. Honest Tea. This is my only better for you pick. And there were other better for you brands that I considered. There's so many great field marketing campaigns that have been out there over the years. But from a better for you perspective, I'm going with Honest Tea. And the thing that I really loved the most about the Honest Tea campaigns from years ago was that they focused on samples and not sales. Quite different now in our time post-COVID, where you have to focus on sales. But it was a golden age of field marketing pre-COVID, and you could go out and do these awesome events and just try to increase your ACV in various territories across the country and have fun and get sips, get liquid to lips. That's what it was all about. It wasn't necessarily about driving immediate sales through the register. And, it was a focused 360 approach to field marketing. It wasn't just in-store demos, although their in-store demos were pretty good. I remember going to quite a few Whole Foods Honest Tea demos over the years, but they would do a lot of these experiential events, specific to the Honest Box and the Honesty Store, that Honest campaign where they would go into, major markets, and they would set up, basically a refrigerated storage system, and you could open the door and grab an Honest Tea, and it was up to you whether or not you were going to donate money. You could just take the Honest the bottle of Honest Tea and go off with it, or you could make a donation, and that was the Honest Index. That's how it was measured, and it generated a lot of income. That was the surprising thing. A lot of people did not take advantage of that. They actually put money towards it. And the overall success, according to reports that I read, the campaign achieved over 17 million impressions and more than 322,000 interactions. And just the legacy that whole Honest Tea program has to this day. A lot of the ways we measure metrics at demos now was innovated by Honest Tea. A lot of the verbiage and terminology we use, it was created by Honest Tea. Also, I think one of the biggest impacts that it has made has been the talent that it incubated and produced for our industry. Some of the names that their field marketing campaign has produced that, still in the industry to this day making impact: Patrick Jamay, Matt O'Brien, Matt Plume, Frank Volante, James Verricchio. These are guys that everyone I talk to in this industry knows. And it's just and that's just like the top line. There were people that started at Honest Tea that were interns that have gone on to be successful field marketing managers. I remember at Super Coffee, we did a winter, kind of like a winter holiday party / off campus retreat. And Seth Goldman was the keynote speaker. And before he got started, he asked the room, all of the Super Coffee employees, he said, raise your hand at any point in your life you worked for Honest Tea. Half the room raised their hand. I was not able to raise my hand because I never had the opportunity to work in the Honest Tea program, but I wish I had. But I think that's another contribution that program has made. It's just generated so much talent that exists in our industry. And I'll say this: some of the nicest people I've met in this industry, the most kind, the most giving, most supportive people have come from that Honest Tea program. It's just, talented field marketers, but even better people.
Thanks for mentioning that, Sam, and I love that you mentioned those people's names, because if you notice a trend on some of the success stories of CPG, it's usually the people that have built other brands coming into other brands and succeeding at a high level. And I'd like to call out Chomps at that right now, because a lot of the team from Perfect Bar jumped to Chomps for a good reason. Like, it's a great product as on its own. But look at what's happened there. Like Elizabeth Carter, Matt Landon, Matthew Green, Justin Salz, all these great, wonderful people. Allie Jennings, they're all there. And honestly, I think they're attributing to a lot of the success of the brand because they know they've done it and they understand what it takes to get there. And it's a special thing. So I could call them out honestly on this but they just continue to dominate sometimes. So I'm going to do two in a row here, Sam. Only because this is one I was involved with back in 2006. The other one is a very recent one, and both were acquired by Pepsi, and both were kind of acquired in the same reality. So it's kind of cool just to look back. But in 2006, Izzy Sparkling Soda was acquired by Pepsi for $75 million. They started in 2002, and right outside my neighborhood, I was very familiar. If you walked into any retail store in Colorado during the 2002 to 2006 time period, you saw Izzy somewhere in the store. Like, there was demos going on all the time. It was actually the first thing I ever sold in retail. That's how they built the business. They did very well, and they kept it going. They sold it, but they maintained some ownership, just like Perfect Bar. So they've been able to innovate some other products and things like that. But an interesting thing coming full circle now, because I'm sure everybody knows who I'm going to talk about next, is Poppi, which also kind of uses the same playbook. Obviously, things have changed a lot in 20 years. Social media is a much bigger topic, but Poppi did demos. Honestly, some of the best displays I've ever seen. I mean, just on LinkedIn, I remember I'm connected to a lot of people with Poppi over the last few years. I'm seeing these displays they're building in retail. I'm like, my gosh, like, that's a lot of product to sell through. They're going to get a lot of velocities. Just, people are going to walk past that and be like, wow, what is that? They did a phenomenal job. And here we are, Pepsi's buying it again, but their valuation was significantly higher at 1.95 billion, and they were acquired for about that. I think there's a $300 million tax break or something that got to 1.65 billion with Pepsi. Whatever, it's such a big number, it doesn't matter at that point. But congratulations to them. But two separate time periods, two very similar situations, whereas Pepsi wants to get in the better for you soda space because they know that that's where that market's going. What happened in those 15, 20 years in between is insane, because it really kind of lost traction there for a while. And then the Olipop came on the market and Poppy, and then just boom, like wildfire. So pretty cool to watch that happen.
And we're going to go long on this episode. Usually we keep it to a nice tight half an hour, but Jason doesn't have to catch a plane right now. So this is one of the first weeks in a long time where Jason didn't have to run to the airport. So we're just going to have fun, keep it going here. And, in the theme of fun, I'm going to give my last two, but this next one, we're going to do something fun here, Jason. So it's a trivia question, and you guys can play at home along, play at home too. Yeah. I'll give you a few seconds to get it. I don't think very many people are going to get it, but Jason, what is the first ever and longest running viral field marketing campaign in CPG? And it's not bad. I'll give you a hint. It's not better for you.
Wow. Red Bull?
No, Jason, this goes back to 1936, believe it or not.
Oh, well, I'm way off.
All right. So I'll give everybody a couple more seconds, and now I'm going to tell you, it is the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. Yes, it feels awkward just talking about it. It's a Wednesday, and we're talking wieners. I feel weird saying it, but that's kind of some of the beauty of it. It's just a awkwardly fun viral campaign that started in 1936, and it's still relevant to this day. We live in a world now where everything is about going viral and creating content, and selfies. And these Wienermobile events, I've never been to one, but I have a few brand ambassadors on my team that have worked these events at Kroger's in the Midwest, and they cannot stop talking about it, how crazy it gets. People line up early to check out this Wienermobile. And it doesn't necessarily, the Wienermobile appearance doesn't necessarily lead to immediate sales that day, but studies have shown that when they do post-event surveys after the Wienermobile appearance, there's a 20 to 30% lift in purchase intent of Oscar Mayer products. And, for me, you wouldn't catch, I won't be caught dead eating an Oscar Mayer hot dog at any point in my life. But, as a student of the game, from a field marketing perspective, it's a marvel how successful the Wienermobile has been. And look at the biggest ROI in various parts of the country, over the year, spanning decades now, in smaller markets. Typically, when the Wienermobile comes to town, usually the nightly news or the local news team, whether it be TV, radio, or even the newspaper, will go out and they will cover the appearance of the Wienermobile. And that is free publicity for Oscar Mayer. I tried to get a number, just an estimate on how much free press and free publicity and free advertising they've gotten over the years from the Wienermobile, and I couldn't get a number. Like it wouldn't generate. They said it's so large, it's hard to even comprehend. So that campaign goes back to 1936, still going. And I wonder why more brands haven't tried to knock off that concept. Try to just get crazy and create like a super awkward vehicle that everybody can't stop talking about.
I mean, there's the Planner's Peanut vehicle too. I don't know if you've seen that one rolling around, but
I have not. It's not awkward enough, I guess.
Oh, it's a big peanut. You can't miss it. No, that's a great one. I would have never guessed. Yeah, great job, Sam. That was great.
And I'll go to my last one, number one of all time on my list. And Jason, you actually just guessed it, Red Bull. Just too many individual campaigns that they ran to really list. There was the Flutog campaign, all the partnering with extreme events. Jason, you mentioned you're a metal guy. I was a heavy metal guy, and that's kind of how I was introduced to Red Bull. It seemed like every Ozfest I would go to or Warped Tour, Red Bull had a table there. And the thing that I really admired, the innovation from Red Bull that I've tried to replicate at other brands, is that they did not do sample pours. It was a whole can sample or no sample at all. And what I learned from talking to people that worked at Red Bull, because I've actually worked at companies where people came from the Red Bull program, and they said Red Bull's perspective was, You may not like how we taste, but you're going to love how you feel. And that's why they spent the money and gave everybody whole can samples. And that's something that, I have looked to replicate in certain situations when it comes to field marketing. Also, the Red Bull Wings team at various events, the way they've the way they used to brand themselves. But I think the most clever thing that they did, the most impactful thing, creating the Red Bull and vodka drink. That is something that, what was that drink? Before it just Red Bull created it, and they went and they had brand ambassadors go into the bars and the clubs, and they made it happen. They made it a thing. I don't know if something like that could ever happen in today's environment. Just inventing something completely new and push it and get it to become a mainstay staple. Because, I was not an energy drink guy for the most part, but in my younger days, I'd like to go out, have some fun and party. And if I was with a group of friends, that wanted to keep going, and it was 11 or midnight and I wanted to go home and sleep, that was my drink, Red Bull and vodka. It just that was what you did. And a lot of people did that. So it's just an iconic campaign on so many levels. So Red Bull, you are my number one field marketing campaign of all time in CPG on my Mount Rushmore.
And honestly, Red Bull, we had to fight over that one because everybody knows, what you did. But here's the one thing I want to say before we exit on this one is, yes, Red Bull created an experience by giving people a full can. Founders with tight margins don't give out free product if you have a premium item on shelf and you think someone's going to be like, oh, wow, this is great. I love it. And then they're going to go to the shelf and be like, holy cow, it's $5.99. Everything else is $2.50. I'm not going to purchase it. That's the reality. You have to find a sweet spot. The one thing Red Bull had going for it is $1.99 or less. So it was not that big of a pull for someone to go purchase it in retail. I've seen some brands with a much more expensive premium item, such as a kombucha or something, thinking they're going to have that same strategy and effect. Unfortunately, if you drink a kombucha, the effects aren't always immediately felt, obviously, but there's also a much more premium price tag usually on kombucha. So your conversion is going to be pretty low with that. Highly recommend getting some kind of revenue from selling that can instead of giving it out. Just my 2 cents. So.
And my closing thought here, the key takeaway is if you are a, brand founder, or you're a field marketing president, head of a field, whole field marketing team, and you're just wondering, you're looking for creativity, you're wondering what you can do to separate yourself from other brands out there and gain market share. And I would say, go back to the classics, go back to Kind Bar, go back to Perfect Bar, study what Honest Tea did. There's a whole book. Seth Godin wrote a book about Honest Tea. Kind Bar, there's a book out there about Kind Bar as well. Go in and do the research, and I'm not saying replicate every single thing, but look for inspiration, see what you can borrow and take from those successful field marketing campaigns, and try to create something that has something borrowed, something old, and something new. So that would be my advice there as far as a key takeaway. But we are closing out the show here. We're almost out of segments here, but we're going to transition now to our, I'm going to call it new and natural. Jason and I have been reviewing products on every episode. This is one that Jason's very familiar with. I have not tried it yet. It is the Honey Mama's Protein Crunch Bar. Heard a lot of good things about it, but I'm going to crack this open. I'm going to try it right now. I'm going to let Jason give his thoughts first while I chomp on this.
So Honey Mama's has been around for a while, probably one of the more decadent refrigerated items sold in natural, kind of meant towards that. Not a super functional high protein or anything like that. Just a decadent, delicious, but ingredients are killer. You're going to eat this and feel really good about it. The mouthfeel of a Honey Mama's is so unique. If you've never tried one, they're vegan. They're great. I highly recommend trying them. They're amazing. Those new protein ones, I know 8 grams of protein, obviously not enough macros for everyone in this world anymore, because everybody thinks they need 1,000 milligrams of protein every day. But
your body can only process so much protein in a day, and then you secrete the rest.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Basic nutrition. Who thought of that word still?
Go to a Brazilian steakhouse and eat all that steak. They call it the meat sweats for a reason. Your body can't process all of that protein, so you sweat it out. So that's that. We can talk about that that's a sidebar discussion there.
Thank you, Sam. Well, on that, 8 grams of protein to me is sufficient, and the taste, I'm sure Sam's going to agree, no aftertaste, no weird mouthfeel. Honestly, it's one of my new favorite products I've tried. They had a 3 for $5 TPR in Whole Foods when they first launched. I think I bought the whole shelf out, and I have one a day. I think they're phenomenal. I'd love to get your opinion, Sam. I love them.
I'm sure the audience saw I ate the whole thing. Sorry, I was talking while chewing. I know that's bad manners, but it's for the show, in the best interest of the show. Taste profile is unbelievable. I don't know what they're doing from a demo perspective, but whatever they're doing, if they are doing demos, double, triple down. Well, Jason, you know so much of what we do when we do demos. It's a taste play. You have to lead with taste. And in terms of taste, as far as a better for you all natural product, in terms of taste profile, I don't know if they could have done any better. So they should throw as much money as possible behind demoing.
100%. I mean, that's it.
You could sell 120 bars in 3 hours if you sell by the case with this.
I have no doubt. Trust me, that's the play that we used at Perfect Bar. We didn't sell them individually. We sold them by the box all the time. Box of 8 through the register. It's a slam dunk. And, we didn't even open the boxes anymore. We'd literally put them on the table and just sell them as 8-packs. Like, take these home, eat one a day. It's your breakfast every day. So, honey mamas, you got something really special there. I'd love to see how you drive trial on it, because you've had a special brand for a really long time. And, this is a really good time to get out there and do some demos, because you've got a lot of brands competing for that space now. And you've got a great item, like ingredients, taste. I mean, it couldn't be better in my opinion. So great job.
Well, that does it for the 5th episode of the Demo Guys podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Been a fun episode. Couple of programming notes. Number one, there will be no live episode next week. What we'll do is we'll break up some clips from the masterclass that we did a couple weeks ago, or actually last week. You'll see some of those pop up on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on YouTube. So look out for those shorts. We will be back 2 weeks from now. I believe that will be, if I'm not mistaken, you'll catch us live again, July 2nd, 8:30 a.m. on LinkedIn Live as well as YouTube. But if you want to get in touch with Jason or I, hit us up through LinkedIn. You've got all that information on the ticker. And then when we come back on the 2nd, we've got a special announcement, another big announcement that we'll be revealing to the audience. But for the Demo Guys podcast, I'm Sam Kaplan. He's Jason Smith. We will see you in a couple weeks.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your support.